Hey guys, this is Jeremy from Team Menza bringing you episode 2 of Breaking the Meta. In this multi-part video, I'll be going through the rationale that I employ when constructing an army for competitive 40k. So the event I'll be constructing this army for is the Hunt. The Hunt is being played this 9th and 10th of April, which is this coming weekend, at House of War. It's being hosted by Matt Antonello and Jared Brehort, and as we can see from this front of the player pack, it's obviously a Cypher-themed event. As far as I know, they've constructed lots of fluff and cool missions to help and to make it a really fun event for all the players. So I'm going to make a good practice to go through the player pack at the start of an event to see if there's any kind of special things I should consider. Fortunately, the Hunt is a pretty basic event. As we can see here, it's an 1850 event being fought with 5 battles. And it's using the community comp system with a 20 credit limit. So I won't go too much into community comp. We'll discuss that in a specific special video soon. But basically what we mean by the straight out of the box version is that we're using the curved version rather than the capped version of community comp, which I'll discuss just in 1 second. But it's also worth noting for this event that it will be using the ATC mission formats. So basically, when we talk about ATC mission format, discussed it in the previous video, it's a mission format that basically involves Maelstrom, Eternal War, and Kill Points all in one kind of bundle type of mission. So it means that when you construct an army, you have to basically consider all the variables that might go into deciding who wins a game. There's not too much else in the player pack worthy of note. This event is quite a standard event. However, I will quickly have a look at the composition points, the way in which community comp curve works. So they're just using the standard curve, and this is available in the community comp document at communitycomp.org. So you can find that there if you'd like. But as we can see, if you have a look at this, you can pause it and have a look if you want, if you're not familiar with it. But you can see with this kind of curve that the amount of tournament points you have available for your comp score correlates to how many credits you spend. So community comp credits become a resource of sorts that you use to garner more community comp points, your comp points. So we can see that for every comp point you spend for the first 5 points, you will lose 2% of your available comp score, which for this event is 50% of the total battle score. So we see that we lose 2% for the first 5 points, and then from between the 6th and the 10th point, we lose 4% of our total score per point. And then after that, it goes up to 6%, and then it continues on and gets gradually more punitive. So we can see that there's an sense of exponential curve there that obviously rewards you for spending less points. Now, I feel in an event where you have 5 games, and we were expecting probably about 30 to 40 players at this event, you kind of do want to spend no more than 7 or 8 points. The reason being that while you will often have an opportunity to play, if you win all your games in a 5-match format with a small player count, you will basically, if you're undefeated, you will play at a top table at the end against the person who's ranked 2nd battle points. So you'll always get the opportunity to knock that 2nd battle point person down. But the problem is that if somebody goes 4 out of 5 wins with a really low credit list, they can actually overtake you. So you can have a situation where if you spend too many comp and you win all your 5 games, it's still possible that you won't come first because somebody with a low 3 or 4 credit list or less could win 4 games and then overtake you. So based on that kind of logic, I like to spend no more than 6 to 7 points at these types of events. And I'll go into more detail later about how many points I spend in my list when we look at the actual army list creation video. But I'll be looking to spend between 5 and 7. So then I'm gonna bring open this kind of sheet that I just wanted to discuss some early considerations for this first part video. So I just want to discuss why I'm picking Chaos. The reason I'm playing Chaos for this event is I wanted to challenge myself with a low tier list. For the last couple of events I've played, I've had a lot of success. I've actually effectively won the last 2 tournaments I've played. I finished top BP in both events. So playing a Grey Knight Scent Star and then a Tau Suit Star in both events, I felt like I had incredible power at my disposal in terms of the tier list that I was using. I was using high tier lists, and I felt that while obviously I needed to try hard and get lucky and employ lots of skill to win, I was using things that were very effective and considered the top of what they can do. So obviously, like a Tau Suit Star and a Grey Knight Scent Star, very powerful and a very really good archetypes for creating a list. So I wanted to challenge myself in this event, and who better to take in the hunt than Cypher himself. So I wanted to take Chaos for a couple of reasons, not only because they're a lower tier codex, but because obviously I can take Cypher. So that fluffy kind of perspective aside, there's no doubting that Cypher is an extremely powerful model in 40k. Cypher is taken in many Imperium armies, where Imperium are generally considered towards the top tier as an overall kind of faction that can ally with Battle Brothers. So Imperium, given that it's towards the top of the tier list, the fact that Imperium armies often take Cypher kind of shows you that Cypher is a premium choice. It brings Hit and Run and Shrouded in a 190 point model, so you get a pretty good bundle there with Cypher. And he's an Eternal Warrior to boot, which means that if you really need to look out that hit that might have ID'd somebody, you can take a wound on Cypher. So very, very valuable model there. So I wanted to build a list around Cypher, and Cypher generally is a kind of model that's considered a force multiplier that will make a Death Star kind of unit really powerful by giving that unit Shrouded, Hit and Run, those unit-wide benefits that confer. So I kind of was thinking about what Chaos can take in terms of their Death Stars. So I can take a unit of bikes. Chaos have options of bikes. Chaos have Chaos Spawn, which are also quite a powerful unit. And then you've got kind of the Chaos War Dogs, like the Hounds, the Cornate Hounds. So there was a lot of options there with what Cypher could go in. And obviously the reason why Cypher can join the Hounds now is because Khorne Demonkin Hounds are not considered demons. So, ICs can join them that aren't demons. So I kind of thought about this for a while, and I decided to go with the bike archetype. Now, the reason why I've kind of thought about and decided to go with bikes is for a couple of reasons. You've got your practical reason to start with, and that's because I will be borrowing somebody's army for the hunt. I'll be borrowing Dwayne Wood's army, and Dwayne's got a massive Nurgle collection of Chaos, and he really loves Nurgle, and so he's got a really big collection, but he's got some bikes. So he's got Spawn, he's got bikes. So for me, the decision was kind of like, I'm kind of feeling like I want to go with Nurgle and explore Nurgle as a faction in this event. So the decision out of bikes and Spawn was, I'm not going to say super easy. They've both got their pros and cons. Obviously, bikes can flat out and jink, where Spawn are, they're more tough and perhaps better on the offense as well. So Spawn are kind of more robust units individually, but bikes, because of the fact that they can jink and can flat out, kind of gives them more utility. So for me, when building a Death Star, I feel like utility and maneuverability is what empowers this kind of unit archetype. So I've decided to go with bikes. So Nurgle bikes and Nurgle Spawn are both toughness 6. So that's obviously a really powerful kind of level to be at. So when you're at toughness 6, it means that you are going to be able to not be ID'd by strength 10, which is very relevant for Spawn because they're a multi-wound model. Less so for bikes. But it also means that if you've got like endurance on you as a spell, that if you do get that hit by those strength 10 hits that would normally ignore feel no pain, it won't do that. So you'll still get, even though bikes are 1-wound models, they still benefit from toughness 6 in terms of that not being able to be doubled out through the synergy with endurance. But the reason why I think bikes are the best fit with Cypher is because of Shrouded and allowing them to get a 2-up jink save. So having a unit of toughness 6 bikes that can jink for 2-up, that doesn't really hurt them at all because they're not a shooting unit. They don't really want to be able to shoot things necessarily. That's incredible synergy. So I've decided to go with the bikes of Nurgle. So that's kind of the first consideration is I've got Cypher in a unit of bikes. That's kind of what the first kind of thought when building the list. The second thing I've thought about with Chaos is Chaos are considered that most of their unit options aren't particularly top tier. You can kind of pick and choose things in other armies that are better than Chaos. One thing that Chaos do have that's interesting compared to their Imperium counterparts is that they can take autocannons on their Havocs, which is something that Devastator Marines can't do. So it creates a little bit of variation, a little bit of an interesting kind of unit type that kind of in some ways resembles things like broadsides than it does Devastators, because Devastators are quite common, quite thought about as kind of delivering las cannon shots, missile launcher shots, grav cannon shots, kind of very premium but often very restricted types of weapons. Whereas autocannon is very versatile in that it can target light vehicles, it can target kind of mid-range monstrous creatures and things like that, and it can also put kind of a volume of fire so that it can be threatening to flyers and things like that. So I've decided to take some Havocs in the list as well. I think they provide an interesting backfield option for Chaos at an affordable price. And the last thing I wanted to discuss, and this is pushing into part 2 of the video, is Plague Marines. So what I'm going to do now in part 2 is I'm going to discuss Plague Marines and why I've decided to include Plague Marines in my list. So stay tuned for part 2.